Hello and welcome to The Elder's Insight, an exciting new podcast series presented by Hepworth & Associates, your source for advocacy, advisory, and planning insights for seniors, pre-seniors, and their caring families. So let's get started with the show on location today in Toronto.
Welcome back to another episode of The Elder's Insight, and thank you for joining us once again. My name is Gary Hepworth, and I'm your host for this edition of The Elder's Insight, and we are live from beautiful sunny Toronto, Canada. Today's episode is entitled Downsizing, How Do I Get From Here to There? And for those of you looking at downsizing, or moving to a new residence, or pondering changes to your current residence, or did a recent walk around like I just did and wondered where did all this stuff come from, today hopefully will be a great help for you. So like many things, we used to do things ourselves, but the emergence of the professional organizer has been a boon to the incredible busy world we find ourselves in today. For many of us, clutter is the result of us not having enough time to find the perfect spot for all the things we accumulate. And not surprising, with so many options, techniques and tools available, it's become an expertise in an industry that focuses specifically to help individuals and businesses design organizing systems and processes to improve quality of life, personal productivity, and greater efficiency. And where this expertise has really come into focus in the last 10 years is in helping those of us accumulators who are now looking to move to alternate places to live and dealing with not only the physical aspects of moving, but often, and probably more importantly, the emotional aspects of moving. And to talk about this subject, our guest joining us today is the terrific Karen Pivnick, who is the president of TopCat Organizing right here in Toronto. So a little bit about Karen. Karen was quite ahead of herself and the industry when in 2009, she saw a wave of us baby boomers and others coming to confront their years of accumulated stuff. She took her corporate business experience and blended it with her inner need for things that flow, are accessible when you need them, and best leverage the space one has available. A place for everything and everything in its place. I like that. Place for everything and everything in its place. What I particularly like about Karen's approach is her understanding of the very real stresses of getting one's home in order, whether you're leaving it for a different location or just faced with the mountain of where did all this stuff come from. So bottom line, Karen is a very passionate, respected expert on the needs of older adults, and we are thrilled to have her here today on the Elder's Insight. Welcome, Karen.
Well, thank you, Gary. It's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me on Elder Insight, and I hope I'm able to provide your listeners with some relevant information.
Right, let's roll. So Karen, like so many available services that have emerged over the recent years, I'm hearing a lot about downsizing. Why has it become so popular? And with who? Who's using it?
Yeah, well, the most popular, or I'm going to say the most familiar group that we are expecting to downsize or who are downsizing are those people that are 55 plus. And they're approaching retirement or they're either retired already. They want a simpler life. They want to free up time so that they can pursue their hobbies. They want to travel. They want to spend time with their family and friends, instead of looking after their house and all the upkeep that goes with it. This allows them financial freedom to live the way that they want without the overhead burden. And the longer you stay in the big old house, the more costly it becomes because of increased utility bills, costs of repairs, possible renovations to keep the upkeep of the house for potential sale. It also frees up money for some people who want to help their kids purchase their own home. And it frees up money to invest in, a rainy day and, for just financial freedom. But we're seeing, where for younger people, there's this whole trend toward minimalism, and minimalism can be a lot of different things to different people. It can, it's just different. But for the past decade, we've seen people all over the world they've become increasingly concerned about the state of our environment. And it includes, man's effect on the global climate. People are inspired to live simpler lives and consume less to help reduce their urban footprint. And, then there's the cost of housing prices that have become so high, and people are looking for cost-efficient alternatives, and have decreased their consumer spending to make, so that their money just simply goes further than what it would if they kept up the current pace. And many young people have rejected this materialistic point of view and are opting for functional homes, with fewer possessions, rather than having the lavish homes that maybe you and I had, our parents had. They just don't have the need for it anymore. And then we're seeing, this whole trend with, so many books on decluttering and downsizing. There's all the TV shows, that focus on this whole decluttering your life business, and just making it easier to see value in, living in a smaller home and living with less.
Good. So before we talk about the actual physical aspects of organizing and decluttering,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to explore the psychological side of clutter and dealing with it. Is it an avoidance thing, or is it a generational thing, like, don't throw this out, we might need it at some point thing?
Well, it is a little bit of both. And I just, I see, I see many people that are gravitating toward holding on to, to the chaos. There's always a hidden agenda. And as much as they want to have freedom from all of their stuff, there is a strong impulse inside telling them that they are going to need it. They make numerous efforts to get organized and get rid of all their clutter, but they never let themselves finish the job. Or worse, they finish the job and then they sabotage their accomplishments by bringing in more clutter. And a few, I'll give you a couple of common reasons why, people do hang on to their clutter. Some have that deep-rooted need for abundance and volume in their lives. They surround themselves with lots of stuff. Nothing is small in their lives. They buy in bulk, they cook in bulk, they save their treasures in bulk. They like visiting people, where the spaces are uncluttered. But if this would be very upsetting if it happened in their own home. They keep lots of everything, and the idea of getting rid of anything fills them with a lot of anxiety and dread. Volumes give them the sense of fullness, comfort, and security, and identity. So this need for abundance may have evolved from a childhood of deprivation, of emptiness. There wasn't enough food, there wasn't enough clothing, and worse still, they may not have had enough love in their or companionship in their family. And some people do inherit this, this need for abundance. This is common, for people who grew up, with parents or grandparents who went through, the Depression or a war, the World War II, where shortages and rationing were common. Also, descendants of immigrants coming from less developed countries or survivors of a traumatic life experience like the Holocaust. They may have picked up some of their habits of always being prepared for shortages, resulting in, pack ratting against future deprivation. There's also, and there's nothing wrong with living with a life surrounded by volume as long as you have sufficient resources and skills to keep everything accessible and orderly. And so there's that aspect. And then there's the sentimental aspect of hanging on to things. It's hard for people to let go of things they are not using because they hold a lot of meaning. And these objects represent another time in their life where, the person, these things were part of the person, and they feel like if they let go of it, they're going to lose that memory forever. And we sometimes, some people give personalities and emotions to their things based on where they got them from, who owned them before, or, what purpose they serve. I hear people saying things like, that jacket, It's been all over the world with me. Or I made those, those baby sweaters or the blankets, for my daughter, or a friend gave me that special vase. And so for some people, objects define who they are, where they've been, and leaving them, if they don't have them, they'll be very upset by letting them go. So one thing that, we do need to remember that our identity comes from inside and not the objects that we hold. Objects may remind us of who we are or who we want to be, but the real truth is inside us and never goes away. So most often when people do let go, they'll never miss the item. We own our memories of our past life without holding on to the physical reminder. And if you aren't ready to let go of that emotional connection, sometimes I suggest to people that, we put these things in an attic or a basement, off-site storage, and, that's an interim step to see if they can actually let them go.
That's an interesting point. Okay. So I like that idea. So let's say I've decided to move from my 2,500 square foot home to a 1,000 square foot condo, which means about 60% of my stuff is going to be thrown out. How does one deal with what goes and what stays?
How do we deal with that? Well, number one, I'm a big advocate of not throwing everything into the dump and, garbage. I try to help people get rid of their things in an environmentally sound way. But the first thing we have to do is take careful steps, plan to allow you, just plan out how this is all going to work. Give yourself sufficient time. So the first thing you want to do, like if you're moving to a smaller home, you want to get a floor plan or a template of the new home, and that might be a retirement residence, it might be a condo, it might be an apartment. Be sure to measure everything so you've got accurate measurements that reflect placement of, where the doors are, the windows, appliances, any built-in shelves, linens, storage, and so on. You want to know precisely how much space you will have, and you don't want to have to guess. So measuring shelves and closets to determine how much closet space you're going to need to hang clothing. These are all important things. And then you want to make like a preliminary plan of where, major furniture will go in the, the new place. Like those are the big pieces, like the beds, the couch, the tables and chairs, bookshelves, dressers and desks and so on. And again, you're going to measure carefully. And if these pieces can serve, more than one purpose, all the better. You want to tag all these items and inventory them with measurements so you've got easy reference for everything. And then I would create like a color code system for items to keep, for the things that you're going to keep, possibly keep, donate, gift to family, and then there's the sell items that would be sold and things that are going to go to trash. And then you start selecting and sorting key items that you want to take with you. And these are the smaller things. And I like to focus on, what to take as opposed to tackling the whole house all at once. It's less overwhelming as you start to build out what belongings are important to you. And this includes, like obviously furnishings, decorative items, artwork, and then practical items like from the kitchen, linen closets, and so on. And once you have, your key belongings tagged and listed, you can keep adding as you continue to sort through the house. And the key here is trying to create the new home, and that's going to feel like a home with the key things from your existing home. And then, any of the unwanted things, after you get through to that stage, like things that could be sold, you're going to think about auction, selling them at auction, consignment shops, and, garage and estate sales and those things. And then there's things that, you would give to family or, donate. We try to encourage people to go through that process along the way.
So I'm assuming you have clients, and I'm in this category, who aren't moving, but just
Hmm.
want to declutter. For example, their kids
Yeah.
have moved out, and there's a ton of stuff, and I have that. The stuff just needs to go, but there are keepsakes there too.
Hmm.
What do you recommend people like us do?
Well, here yeah, I'll give you a few examples so that you can, that you might actually feel good about parting with this. I call sentimental clutter. Um, and first, you have to determine what is worth keeping. What's important to you. So chances are it's not the object itself, but it's the association with the person, the place or time. You'll retain the memory without the physical object being there to remind you. So if you really love that object, you've got to keep it. And if not, then you've got to think about, okay, we can let that go. Um, I always tell people not to let gifts burden them down. So, like these might be something you got from somebody that you don't really like. Or you never liked. It might have been an uncle and he, gave you something and you just absolutely don't like that item. Just let it go. You didn't like him. You don't like the memories associated with it. You can let that go. Um, and then, people I think they have to let go of the guilt of hanging on to things too. Like somebody gave them, they gave them something that they really just don't care for. And again, it has to do with don't be burdened down with those gifts. It's okay to let them go. And then there's like I don't know, there's things like, there's tons of photographs. There might be things like different memories that you've had from your children. I always encourage people to take a photograph of them so that you can digitize it in some format. You might make a book of all these favorite things, like a photographic book, and just you'll have some way to hang on to those memories. And that could be some of your kids' toys or whatever, I mean, who knows what it is. But it's just like taking photographs and creating either it could be scrapbooks or but I think nowadays it's more like to digitize it and have some sort of a photo album. Could be an online album, or it might be these precious, items that people can have, like with a just a, a coffee table book. And then there's the thing like of donating significant items, like, I mean, there's kids' cribs, there's toys, there's, just old furniture that are no longer of use to you, but it's okay to let them go because somebody's going to benefit from them. So I strongly urge people to do that. Um, Pass on family heirlooms. Like it might be a china set or whatever, like just some people may want these things like in the family, or it might be a beautiful washstand. There's all these different things that somebody in the family may want to hang on to. Um, you know, and one of these things like is like you don't have to keep the whole bunch of things like a collection of things. That you can keep one. And I always think about when I got my mother's teacups, my grandmother's, and my aunt's. Like, what the heck, what am I going to do with that? And so I kept a couple of really pretty ones, and then I donated, to retirement homes, a bunch of teacups and saucers, and then I took, I sold a few of the pieces too. And you can always think that you can give people that don't have things, like you may not use certain things in your house. Um, that may hold some memories, but just giving it to somebody, you may give that item a better home than, hanging on to it for ever and ever.
Okay. So
Okay.
you've been doing this for over 10 years, and I'm sure you've seen lots of things, good, bad, and maybe ugly.
Yes.
But what type of things keep you awake at night in terms
Well,
of busy?
I think that things, I, I don't have really ugly memories of certain things. I certainly
That's
learn,
good. That's
you
good.
know, I've certainly learned from certain things, but I think the things that keep me up at night are, you know, it's the type of service that I'm going to provide to my client. Some projects are really complex with a lot of moving parts, require lots of resources. So, there's a lot of details to manage. So I have to make sure that I'm on top of all of that. Managing client expectations and knowing that they understand what's going to happen. That's important. Some people are complex, some have physical or cognitive challenges, so what's the best way to motivate them and keep them positive and on track? There's always the family dynamics, which cause lots of um, complications, whether a parent is staying in a home or if they're moving out, there's dealing with all the family dynamics and managing that. And I think it's really important to have like a plan B, especially when a client or a family member saying that they're going to do a task. They want to do the task and it doesn't usually get done for, a number of reasons. It could be, that it's too big or they just simply don't get it done and they've underestimated the time it requires. So I just have to be on top of all of these things and just so to make sure that whatever my client experience is going to be it's going to be good and there are no hiccups.
Great. It's a good strategy.
Yes.
So last question, Karen. You've got a lot of experience with many of us over 50
Yeah.
who are looking at downsizing or dealing with managing a estate or planning a move.
Hmm.
What do you wish people our age knew? What would you wish you could tell them?
What can I tell everyone?
Mm,
Well, I always say start planning now for the future, especially if you think that you will downsize to a smaller home or potentially renovate, so that you can stay, in case you want to stay in your current home. If you think it's too soon, you're sitting on a sweet spot that can quickly turn to too late. Um, do it when your idea feels like it's going to be fun, it's going to be a good adventure, not when it's going to become some form of torture. Um, if you downsize at the right time of life, you will have the energy to do whatever you want to do, like fixing up a family home before selling it. And then our emotions can drag us back too. We think we are resilient and will do what's needed at a logical level. But when you become 75 and 80, and that's, making this change is not easy. It becomes more and more difficult, um, from physical attachment and the emotional attachment. So we want to avoid becoming overwhelmed and, being anxious about this whole process. And I always tell people, make decluttering and purging an ongoing task. Don't save it for, a few months before you move, or, you an older person who's staying in their home, the doctor, is after them, just you've got too much stuff in your house. I don't want to see you fall. So you want to do all these things while you can, and you feel like doing it. So, and lastly, don't be afraid to ask for help. That game of keep, sell, donate is yeah, very tough emotional battle. Um, Ask for professional help, from a senior move manager or a professional organizer who will be with you every step of the way, and will give, expertise, resources, and support to help, the transition into the next stage of life, make it a lot easier for you.
good. I like the use of the word adventure. Yes, let's make it an adventure as opposed to a torture.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, it has to be fun.
good. So, Karen, a fascinating chat today, indeed. So big thanks to you on behalf of our listeners and yours truly. Our whole objective here on the Elders Insight is to provide peace of mind that comes from trusted information, and it's terrific to be getting that straight goods from a seasoned pro like you. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Gary. It was a pleasure. I hope I was able to give some good information to your listeners, and thank you very much.
Good. Okay, folks, that's a wrap for today's video cast, and we thank you all for joining us. A big thanks to our guest, Karen Pivnick, for taking the time out of her busy schedule to be with us today. And if you'd like to reach out to Karen and the fine folks at TopCat, by the way, I should ask you how you got the name. So drop us a line and we'll get you connected right away. How did you get the name TopCat?
Well, people ask me that. Well, when I was naming my company, they say, well, choose something that you love doing, you're passionate about. Well, the top part of it came, I love helping people. I love the whole idea of being on, top of my game, providing top service. And then the cat, I'm the crazy cat lady. I love cats. And at the time I started my company, I had 4 of them. My inventory is reduced. But anyway, hence TopCat.
So you downsized the cats. Okay, got that.
I downsized the cats. Well, that became...
All right, this has been great. So thanks everyone for listening and watching, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks. Karen.
Okay, take care. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us today on the Elders Insight. We hope you found this podcast helpful, informative, interesting, and most of all, fun. We hope you can join us for our future podcasts as we continue to be your source for advocacy, advisory, and planning insights for seniors, pre-seniors, and their caring families. A big thanks to Hepworth & Associates team, and we look forward to seeing you the very next time here on the Elders Insight.